and welcome to Introducing the PCF. I'm John Tesmer. I'm the Director of Open Standards Benchmarking here at APQC in Houston, Texas. And I would love to teach you more about what the PCF is, why people use it, the difference between the industry and cross-industry versions, and where you can get some more information. So without any further ado, let me just go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit about what the PCF is. If you go to the process framework page on our website, a lot of the information I'm going to tell you is present here on this Getting Started page. So you can always come back and look here. But let me first explain that the process classification framework was started by APQC and some of our member organizations in the early 1990s as a way for organizations to more effectively benchmark. What that means is they needed to be able to compare performance of specific processes across organizational boundaries. And in order to do that, they needed to understand exactly what was in scope in each organization. So by coming up with an exhaustive list of all of the processes across an entire organization, they were able to ensure that each unit of scope or each process group inside of that list was unique, wasn't recreated inside of this list, and therefore was able to be measured only once. So they were able to take that same unit of measure and go across multiple organizations and ensure they were getting consistent measurements. So that's kind of the genesis of where the process classification framework initiated. Now, since 1992 or the early 90s when this thing came about, I can tell you that lots of people have used the process framework for a variety of different things, including prioritizing improvement efforts, aligning business processes to IT solutions, handling organizational design challenges. The real common thread across every single one of these uses is that the process classification framework really clearly articulates what an organization does. If you look at the process framework, it is a list of business processes. So it decomposes a business down into the very simplest form, just a list of what an organization does. Let me actually show you a real quick example of what a process framework looks like. I'll just go here to the process framework tab at the top. I'll click here to download the cross-industry PCF. Click this download button, and then you can see it opens up here at the bottom. Let's give that a second. Note that there's a variety of formats available. This one happens to be in Excel, but we do offer a PDF version as well. Now, this Excel version, show you what this is here. We've got a cover page, top level categories. It shows you the top level, highest level decomposition of a business. Now, again, remember the process classification framework, the PCF, is a list of business processes. It's not a model in that it doesn't show you a visual representation. There's no flow chart. There's no business rules. There's no RACI charts. There's no SIPOC diagrams. Nothing. It's just simply a list of business processes that follow a couple of real simple rules. First rule of the process classification framework is that every process element that you see is mutually exclusive with every other process element, and together all the process elements at a particular level are collectively exhaustive. This is a principle called MICI, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So all of the elements that you're going to see do not overlap in any way, shape, or form. These top 13 categories that you're seeing, these are mutually exclusive categories. There's no overlap between any of them. One of the brilliant sort of rules that keeps the framework valuable across all of the different implementations and all the different ways that people use process frameworks. As we drill in, we can actually go, and probably one of my favorite categories to look at is finance, which I can tell is 9.0. So I'll just zoom in here a little bit, and you'll see that this file has a number of different columns in it. The ones that are probably the most used in this particular file are these two here, column B and column C. B is the hierarchy ID, and this represents a really easy way for human beings to index and find particular process elements. And obviously column C is the name of the process element. I'm going to go ahead and click this enable editing button, and that'll let me see the comments here. Once you can get the comments up, you'll see that all of these process elements are defined. They all follow a real simple pattern for what the definition is, but it basically just describes in a real descriptive way what the process element does. So you can hover over any of these and get a definition. You can understand what that means. And again, that's one of the benefits of the process classification framework. Using those simple rules, or the simple rule I mentioned earlier about mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, we've identified all of the parts of the managing financial resources that could happen in an organization, fully decomposed down to very detailed levels. Now, one thing that you are probably wondering is, well, my finance function doesn't include this or does include that, or whatever the circumstance may be. The PCF doesn't imply or doesn't impose any structure on your organization. It doesn't say that this has to be under the CFO's control or has to exist in a shared services center or anything of that nature. All the PCF is indicating is that when we talk about managing financial resources here at APQC, this is what we mean. And it includes all of the children, all of the activities that appear below it. Another example, when we talk about performing planning, budgeting, and forecasting, we're talking about these 5 activities. So this is sort of the value of the process framework. Now, one other tip I want to give you is this PCF ID column. This is a column that's really great if you're going to load this information into any other kind of downstream tool, or if you wish to understand the relationship of the process elements to some of the other parts of APQC. The 5-digit identifier here is guaranteed to always refer to the same general concept. APQC is the steward of these ID numbers, and we basically will assign a new ID number if the concept ever changes. So for example, 10739, which is right now aligned to performing cost accounting and control, it basically guarantees that you're always going to have these same 6 elements inside of them. If for whatever reason we added a new one, and it didn't necessarily change the scope of what's listed here, then we'd keep 10739. If we added a new element here and it broadened the scope, or if we removed an element from there and it reduced the scope, then we'd probably give that perform cost accounting and control a new number here. But again, this is a number that you don't typically use in your day-to-day work unless you're doing some integration in a system, or you're trying to map into some of the other APQC systems that we offer. Okay, so that's kind of what the PCF is. We talked a little bit about why people use it, and that they help. It helps them to do things like process management, helps them to do benchmarking. It also helps people to do content management. We have all kinds of great case studies on our website. I encourage you to go check those out. Why don't I show you right now sort of the difference between the industry-specific and the cross-industry versions of the framework. In order to do that, I'm going to go back to our website. I'm going to go back to our home page, and then I will show you from the process framework link here. Let's click this. You can see I've got these industry versions here. Now, the premise between the industry versions and really the difference, rather than the premise, but the difference between the industry version and the cross-industry version is that we understand that people in specific industries use specific terminology to describe what they do. We also understand that in specific industries, there are unique ways of talking about things. And there may even be some unique differences in specific implementations of a process. So knowing all of this, we created these industry-specific versions. Now, if you click on this link, you'll see all the different versions that we have available, from aerospace and defense all the way down to utilities. The one sort of common thread that ties all of these together is that they're all based on the cross-industry process framework. So I'm just going to pull up the retail PCF just as an example, and I'll download this one here. So you'll see this will open up in just a moment. And this one happens to be version 6 of the process framework. Again, it's in Excel. You'll take a look. It'll pop up in a second. Might see a sponsor logo on there. Yep, Microsoft helped us out with this one. So same basic premise. You can see we've got the categories here. But if you look, the categories in the retail process framework are slightly different. So here's a whole category around merchandising products and services. So the subject matter experts that we worked with in Microsoft around retail told us that this is a really important thing. and it was completely absent at the top level and wasn't present in some of the detailed levels down below. So we went ahead and introduced it. Now, if you look down into the details of what merchandising is, you can see it's got some specific things around developing a product plan, sales and pricing plans, and there's actually some really interesting overlaps here between the sales and marketing area and this product merchandising sort of category. This one right here, and I can tell just from my own personal experience and my reference of this number 10129 corresponds pretty closely to the develop sales and marketing, the develop and manage sales and pricing plan that's in the cross-industry framework. Let me just pull that up over here. Go down to 3.0, just search for 10129. And there it is. This is kind of aligned. You see we gave it some new names. So in the retail version, it's called Develop and Manage Sales and Pricing Plan. But here in the cross-industry version, it's called Develop Sales Forecast. Again, the intent of these is to say these are relatively similar. They have similar activities, but in the retail industry, it's got some enhancements that make it a little bit more unique to retail. Now, again, we've got all kinds of industry versions available. You can go to our website and take a look. We're adding new ones all the time, and we get expertise from people around the globe that help us to fill these out. APQC is not necessarily a subject matter expert in any of these areas, but we depend on other people to help us out. That support comes from our PCF community. So if you look at this link here, you'll see it opens up in LinkedIn. Right now we've got over 2,000 members, almost 3,000, and it's great. People come in here to ask questions and learn more about new versions of the PCF, or this is great. This guy provided some feedback about what he does with Archimate. So all kinds of conversations happening here, not just between APQC and non-APQC people, but even amongst individuals out there just using the PCF. So we've talked about what the PCF is, talked about why people use it, talked about the difference between the industry and cross-industry and our LinkedIn community here, and I've shown you where to get it. So again, any questions, you want some more information, if you're looking for support, I encourage you to check out our website, www.apqc.org. Click on the process framework link, and you can get access to all kinds of detailed information here. If you have any further questions, just let me know. At your service. Again, this is John Tesmer, Director of Open Standards Benchmarking here at APQC, signing off.